Hello.
Hello.
We are Loops and Lap Bars, and we are today here at Attractiepark Slagharen, which is in the Netherlands. And as you can see, we are in the park. It's a heavily themed Wild West park. There's no other theme other than Wild West. So if you're into your cowboys and things like that, then you're going to do well here. If you're not so much, then probably give it a miss. We got into the park this morning, went straight to guest services to get an answer to a question I've been repeatedly asking them for on social media, and that is, can you record on the rides? I had a look last night, and it turns out in the park terms and conditions it says no, you can't, so you can't record on any of the bigger things, so they confirmed that basically at guest services, so that's that one, so I can't do POVs. We got to the park, sort of had a wander around. We got in about 9:30 and headed straight to Mine Train, didn't we?
We did, yes. And unlike a lot of other parks, it seems that Slagharen doesn't actually ride test until the ride's open.
Yeah, that's what we kind of saw, because as we got into the queue, the train was still in the station. The ride option turned up around about 10 to 10. And the train didn't move at all, and then the ride ops then came out and told us that the ride wasn't ready yet, which I thought was a bit of a bad way of starting off a visit to a park. First impressions are a really good thing, and I've already got sort of middling sort of impressions, but that was then sort of made a little bit better by the log flume. Ripsaw Falls, which is a 2-drop flume, nothing spectacular. Didn't get too wet though. It was good fun.
No, we got splashed on it. It was good fun. And then after that, we went on a Enterprise.
Yeah,
this is my first Enterprise, and I've got to say, better than I expected. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of that ride. If you've ever been on the cage ones, on the travelling fairs that spin you around, the centrifugal ones, if you're a woman that's got bigger boobs, you're not going to like it.
Yeah, it does shift your weight around a little bit. So if you are carrying a little bit of body, a little bit of belly like I've got, then the forces will play on that. But I found it quite enjoyable because very similar to the Enterprise that used to be at Alton Towers and the one at Thorpe Park. Obviously it spins around and you're held in place by the centrifugal forces. But this one goes completely vertical, and unlike the two in the UK, or at least the two that used to be in the UK, this one was manufactured by Schwarzkopf. So it's got that unique kind of distinction, and that's one of the things that this park has going for it, is the fact that there's a lot of older manufactured rides. So we've got a Schwarzkopf Polyp, we've got Schwarzkopf Enterprise, there's a Huss Condor here, there's quite a few sort of older rides that are kind of like the main selling points. Because unfortunately the big headline attraction, Gold Rush, which is a Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster, isn't running. And it doesn't look like it's going to run all day, which, coupled with the fact that the Mine Train didn't run this morning, then I found out that I was not in the best of moods to start with.
No.
However, we're still having a great time. As we were over by Gold Rush, which is on the south side of the park, I think it is. We went into Red Bandit's Red Bandit Adventure.
Red Bandit Adventure, and we got in and we could see it was a dark ride, and it had some splashing. So we're like, right, okay, this is a dark water ride, maybe of some description. And it turns out it's a gentle raft ride, and it's a brilliant use of the space, I think, where they've put it. And it's, once again, like the rest of the park, it's a really, really well-themed ride. The story's a bit lacking in there, but you don't really mind that because everything else makes up for it. Yeah,
the other thing I'll add to it is the fact that I was kind of expecting either an interactive dark ride or a dark ride, like with a ride vehicle, not a water ride in there, because the water ride, I didn't feel kind of added to it because you were going through mines. And mines are not normally known for having running water in them, whereas obviously a mine cart would have made so much better. But really, really heavily detailed and themed. It felt like you were going into like a black hole style building like there was at Alton Towers, because it was just a big sort of geocitic dome, and like I say, heavily themed in there. But a lot of the animatronics are on the age side. They are very, very basic, but there's some cool effects in there. Like there's a point where they blow up some dynamite and there's explosions, that sound effects and stuff like that. But then there's pops of bubbles in the water as well. They've put some thought into it. And then after that, we came and
Did
got.
the condor.
Yeah, we did the Condor, but before that we got some drinks because they do have the Coca-Cola Freestyle cups. They're priced at, was it $15.50 individually,
Yep.
or 2 for $13, which is the one that we took them up on. Exactly the same as all the other ones. Loads of drinks to pick from. Yeah, you can refill them as many times as you want. And this one I don't think it's got a timer on it. I think it's like the standard 10 minutes, whereas the ones at Movie Park were half an hour.
Half an hour, yeah.
Which is an interesting one. But anyway, yeah. So Huss Condor, or Eagle as it's called here.
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot more thrill from it because it's one of those rides that, having played plenty of Roller Coaster Tycoon games and they've been in those, it was very much like a tame Twister, like a Sizzler ride.
It was, only it's 100 odd foot in the air.
It's not quite that high, but yes, if you've ever ridden a Sizzler or something like that, it's very similar to that in that the cars will interact with each other and it raises up into the air. But this one, it seems to speed up and slow down.
Yeah.
Just to give you time to sort of adjust.
Yeah.
But even then, when it was going for hell for leather, I don't think it was that insane.
No, not that insane for people that are adults and older children, teenagers, that kind of thing. For younger children, for a lot of them, it might just push that cusp of what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
One, because you are on a twister. Two, you are up in the air as well. And when it gets to the top, it does the twister effect for a bit. Then it'll start to slow down. Then you go in a circle, and then you go back to the twister effect. Which can, if you're not ready for that,
Yeah,
can kind of throw you a little bit.
you can see the whole thing from the queue line and such, so you know exactly what you're getting into. But I found it to be very comfortable, and like I say, it wasn't so thrilling that you feel like, oh, I'm going to be sick. Which was nice. I was expecting to be quite ill on that one, exactly the same as the Enterprise. I was expecting to be quite ill off that, but no, they run beautifully. If I have to say it. So next thing I think we're going to do is we're going to head back up towards the north side of the park where Gold Rush is, and have a go on Old Timers, which is a little car ride.
It's got a photo.
Yeah, because it's got an on-ride photo, and then that will probably complete the north side of the park. It's either north or south side, so I'll put it in the here which side of the park it is, because the park is separated by a canal.
Yeah.
I'll show it in some footage a bit later on, but we'll head over there and see what that's like.
Yep. Big money.
So we did eventually get on Old Timers. There was a bit of a queue, but nothing major. Which is, it's a little vintage car ride. Like I say, we went on it because of the photo. We will talk about that at the end, though.
Yes.
And that has probably lasted less time than any roller coaster I've ever been on, because the car rocketed round the circuit.
Yeah. For a kid's ride, it goes around really, really fast. Which you just sat there going, right, okay then.
There weren't much to look at, but it was one round and done in no time at all. So that was Old Timers. Well, then while we were over that side of the park, we went on to Tomahawk, which is a Huss Troika. Now, we did one of these at Hansa Park the other day. We have obviously done them previously, but this one, it felt like it reached higher heights. I don't know if it did, but it was quite thrilling.
It was, yes.
Not so much so that I got ill.
Yeah.
But it was still a
nice little ride.
Nice enough time, weren't it? Nothing really in terms of theming or anything like that, but all right.
Yeah, it was all right.
Having trouble trying to find anything to talk about with that one.
Yep.
So next one we're going to talk about is Apollo,
Yeah.
which is a Schwarzkopf chair swing. And I've never been on one of these before, and unlike the Sierra ones where they sort of wave, they're more like wave swingers,
Yeah.
This one doesn't. It just spins and the swings just sort of spring out.
Spring out a little bit. The unique one with this is it's built round a big globe. And looks a little bit like the moon, to be fair.
Yeah, it stands out a little bit because of that. Because it's called Apollo. It looks like the moon. It's clearly space themed in a Wild West park. But it was a nice, pleasant ride. I don't particularly like chair swings because I find them very uncomfortable. But that was all right. It was nice because it was Schwarzkopf. Same with the big wheel, which we just sat by. Schwarzkopf big wheel. Nothing much to remark about, unfortunately. It was just great views of the park, and what was nice about it is the fact that they don't just like load one gondola. It loads into the station, and then there's 4 gondolas can be loaded at any given time. So it was all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can't really tell you too much about a chair swing and a Ferris wheel, unfortunately.
Yeah. So next we went on El Torito, which is a Schwarzkopf polyp, and it's themed around essentially raging bulls.
Yeah.
And that theming suits it down to the ground. So you get in your little car slightly spins as you get in, and then essentially it goes around and does a little uppy bit as it goes around as well. Because the car's free spin, you can potentially get a lot of spin in them. We didn't get too much, we were fairly evenly weighted, but there were some people that weren't so evenly weighted that were going like the clappers, and it was brilliant fun.
However, if you were to, and it sounds really stupid, but if you were to put one hand on that handlebar in front of you and put your arm up in the air, it would generally feel like you're in a rodeo.
Yeah, genuinely feel like you're in a rodeo. It's one of them rides that is brilliantly themed and in a brilliantly themed area as well, and it proper suits it.
It suits it really well, does that one. Yeah. And then the other one was Free Fall, which is a drop tower, which is tiny compared to
what we've been on.
Yeah, some of the other ones, but yeah, it was still a really good time. Yeah. I was the only one who could get on, unfortunately, because Tracy couldn't. The restraint wouldn't fit.
Yeah, and because of the way the restraints are designed, they're designed essentially like a U shape, but they've got 2 bars in them, and the top bar was sat across my boobs, which generally isn't an issue, but today it was. And even though they're ratcheting in, and I ratcheted in like 4 times, it was still a case of no, you can't go. And it was just like, well, why are you bothering with the safety restraints? I'm not going anywhere.
Well, that is, it's not necessarily that. Just to highlight on that, because it doesn't make I'm not trying to go away from safety, but it does make you wonder what the bloody point of having the seatbelt and having the ratchets in. Because if you can ratchet down 4 clicks and the seatbelt clicks, what's the point in having those 4 ratchets if the green light doesn't go green? It doesn't make any sense. But other than that, it was an alright tower. It wasn't particularly thrilling, but that's compared to some of the big ones. So if kids and things like that, probably going to have a great time on that one. But other than that, kind of unremarkable. There's not really any theming to it. It didn't really do. It took you up, held you there for a couple of seconds, then dropped you. Very similar to Detonator, I suppose, at Thorpe Park. Only Detonator is definitely better themed. So if you've been on Detonator, you've got a fair idea what you're going in for that.
So we went on the monorail today because I was a bit insistent on it, and the monorail here does go around the vast majority of the park. There is currently only 1 station operating. It does have a second one in the water park, but that wasn't open today.
It looks like that's more of a service thing. So what's weird about this park is it's got 2 transport rides, and the first one being the monorail and the second one being the chair swing. Cable car, sorry, which you might be able to see in the background. But that takes you from one side of the park to the other. That's your main mode of transport between the 2 sides of the park. The monorail is just on a loop. And for the most part, it's kind of unremarkable. It's very much like Alton Towers as one, but you can see out the windows. And it does take you around the park. It does also take you through some of the sort of backstage areas,
which you sat there going, not entirely sure why they haven't either A, covered this backstage area over, or B, why have they not thought to move the monorail so it doesn't go into them backstage areas.
Somewhere else.
The bits they do have though, they go through a history of the park and who started it. It is all in Dutch, granted, but they've got some picture boards as well. So you can have a look at how the park's developed over the years from when it was opened in the 1950s.
Yeah, I think 60s or something like that. But yeah, it started off as Pony Park, which is something that I generally did know, and it literally looks like you could come here to ride on ponies.
Yeah.
And they started adding more and more attractions, and eventually we got to the Slagharen that we've got today. Sorry, it's not Slagharen, it's Slagharen.
Yeah.
And
then last ride of the day was Gold Rush. They managed to get this fixed and open.
so
now
we will give them props for that.
Yep.
Because not only did they get them open, but they also had the queue line open till 6, which none of the other rides were doing. So it means that obviously less of the day was available for Gold Rush to be in. So they might as well make that last hour available for Gold Rush to run, which I thought was quite nice, and it was decent of them to actually get it open and open it in the first place. If they'd been at Towers, they probably would have just left it for the day.
Yeah.
So there is that. As for the ride itself, it's a Slagharen Infinity Coaster, in the same sort of vein as Fury. However, Fury is incredibly memorable. I found Gold Rush to be a bit bland.
Yeah, it's not. It's a nice roller coaster. It's smooth. It's a smooth roller coaster. The launches, because it has 3 of them technically, are punchy. And to that extent it's nice, but because of the type of coaster it's not my favourite type of roller coaster. I struggled to find places to hold on, and there was no bit under the seat where you usually can push your legs up against, which is what I tend to do. There was none of that this time, and I didn't like that.
Actually, and for me, I didn't really care about any of that. Like, my feet were up out the floor all the time, and I was just embracing the ejector, because it does have some decent parts of ejector airtime. You do get some airtime from the inversions as well. There's only 2 of them on there, and I did find that the last inversion, which they're calling a slingshot, it's not. I think it's a dive loop, but anyway, it was quite whippy. It gets you over really, really quick. Other than that, it's kind of overshadowed by a lot of the other
initial
Infinities.
sort of scorpion tail launch on the start of it is very good, or would be very, very, very good if you're on the back row.
Yeah, because you do get quite a lot of
which
hang.
I was quite happy with.
But yeah, Gold Rush. I feel like it is kind of forgettable, but I think it's because there's other better coasters of its its brotherhood, if you will. Carnan, the Smiler, Fury, even I would assume that Caraccio, I think it's pronounced, is one of the other coasters I'm really looking forward to getting on eventually. I think they're all going to outdo this one. It's one of the weaker Infinity coasters, but it's still a decent time. We will talk about it a bit more in detail when we get in the car, because there's quite a few things that we're going to go through. But other than that, I think that wraps us up for actually in the park. So we're going to finish up doing what we're going to do. We'll hopefully get in the shop and things like that, and then we'll see you in the car.
We will.
And here we are in the car, as promised.
Yes.
So what a mixed bag. We have a list. It's not particularly big list, but in keeping with the Wild West theme of the park, we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
Need some Stetsons and revolvers. Anyway, so the good. We'll start off with the good, because there is a lot of good here. Specifically, ride operations. They haven't kept us waiting for many of the rides at all, despite the fact the park's been busy. There's been a dance competition.
Yeah, there's been a national dance competition looking at it, so the park's been quite full with dance kids and dance mums today.
Yeah.
Which has been interesting in some queue lines, I assure you.
Yeah, some of the kids are. They're horrible.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it like that.
But that said, though, even though the park was busy, we didn't wait any longer than 15 minutes for a ride, and that was only predominantly for the water ride, the rafty one that we did. Everything else we waited less than 10 minutes for.
Yeah, Gold Rush, to be fair, we did wait, but that was because everyone rushed to it because it had only just opened, but we'll talk about Gold Rush in a bit. Then there's the freestyle cups. Obviously we've got these. The park only has 3 freestyle machines, but they're close enough within each other that you're not having to walk a million miles to get refills.
Yeah.
And earlier on I did say that we think that they've got 10-minute cooldowns on them. No, it's same as before, half an hour.
Half an hour cooldowns on them.
Which is not a bad thing, I suppose. It stops you from chugging the crap out of them, but also can't really call it a refillable, unlimited refill drink if you're timing everybody out half an hour. But anyway, that's a small thing. Freestyle cup's pretty decent. Older ride selection. This, what I mean by this is there's a Hush Troika here, there's a Schwarzkopf Polyp, Schwarzkopf Enterprise, and a Schwarzkopf Ferris wheel.
It's got a Gallopers, which unfortunately we didn't get on.
The Hush Condor. There's so many
vintage rides.
It's not vintage because they're not ancient or anything like that. But there's so many like bucket list rides that you might want to ride. As I say, for me, the Husk Condor was one that I kind of singled the park out for, as well as the Schwarzkopf Enterprise, because of the things that I've ridden kind of alternatives to, but not done Schwarzkopf, and Schwarzkopf was seen as like a legend of the theme park industry. So to ride their rides, it's just like a bucket list thing for me. Then there's the theming, which Tracy talks about because she loves theming.
Yeah, the theming in this place is second to none. If you want your Wild West theming, then this is the park to come to. Everything they've got in there, for the vast 95% of it, blends in with what they're trying to do. They've taken one theme and they've ran with it, and they've ran with it well. I cannot fault the theming at all. It is a very pretty park, even though it is very small, but every ride fits in with the Wild West.
Yeah, the only
some
one
more than others.
The only one that I would say that kind of was a big sore thumb was Apollo, which is the Schwarzkopf chair swing, because it's, as we mentioned, it's a giant moon.
Yeah, and to be fair to them with that one, they have tried to make that area slightly more steampunky and a bit more rusty, so it kind of does fit in a little bit more.
Yeah.
But with the nature of it being what it is, they are probably going to struggle unless they make that area a little bit more steampunky, a bit more, which is one way they could blend that in. I don't know
how to do it, but so that's theming. And then there's Gold Rush. The reason why I was saying that Gold Rush was a good ride, if somewhat forgettable, as I mentioned earlier, but it's the fact that it was closed at the start of the day. And we went up and asked, is Gold Rush going to be open, because it's kind of one of the reasons that we came here for. And the ride up told us that probably not, but they did eventually get it open. And like I say, they got it open. They were operating it. Had it been at a Merlin park or something like that, they probably would have made the decision to keep it closed and obviously make more arrangements and stuff like that. Bring it open the next day. They didn't do that, which is good.
Yeah.
However, that leads us into the bad. There was no communications whatsoever. Gold Rush seemed to attract everybody as soon as it was open. So there's no park app. There's no like boards anywhere around the park telling you, if you're in the north side or south side of the park, what the rides are doing at the other end of the park. So the only way that we found out Gold Rush was open was because we were on the monorail at the time, going past it. And to be honest, I noticed the queue first. Because there was a load of people. It's like, oh, Gold Rush, and Trace like, Gold Rush is open. All I wanted to do at that point was jump over.
Jump off the monorail and down 20 foot and be like, I'm in the queue for Gold Rush.
Yeah, because it was one of the bucket list attractions I'd got here. But that's a minor thing when compared with ride operators and the way that they were operating the rides in general. So yes, they were getting people onto rides, which was good. But I asked at the start of the day, can I wear a GoPro on my chest mount? No, it's forbidden, as mentioned earlier on. But yet, on 3 separate occasions on the bigger rides, we've seen people with either hand GoPros, as in the concealing them, then hide and then getting them out, or the bloody mobile phones. One of the guys that we saw, it was on the mine train. He'd got his phone out right in front of his face, recording the whole thing as they were dispatched out of the station, and I think that is utterly disgusting. Yeah,
it is. That's the other thing, essentially, along with ride ops. A lot of the staff today they've come across they don't care and they don't want people there. And it is just a job.
That's it. That's exactly it. It feels like I'm here to do a job. It doesn't feel like that the customer is at the main focus of Slagharen's operations. In some ways, not going to be completely negative and say that they don't care about the customer, because they clearly do. But in other ways, the ride operators, like I say, you can't record on rides, but it's all right if you hold your phone. I pulled the guy up at the very end of the day on Gold Rush. It's like, is wearing a GoPro on my chest all right? He said, no, it's forbidden, sort of thing. I said, well, what about the guy that was on the last train then, who had a GoPro in his hand? He said, is that all right? And he said, no, that's not all right. Well, why didn't you stop the ride then, like they do in the UK?
Yeah, to be fair, we weren't allowed on Gold Rush either, because both me and Dave, obviously being seasoned coaster people and seasoned rider people, our glasses, with whichever ones they are always strapped on, and we weren't even allowed on with them. And we're both sat there going, hang on, we've done bigger, faster coasters with them on, and it seems
It's daft, yeah, but
it's a bit daft.
I know that they're taking safety seriously because you can't record on rides, but you're allowed to if the train's already dispatched. Well, once it's dispatched, it's on so it's on the lift door. We don't really care. No, that's the point where you stop the train to tell people off. That's what we mean about people not caring about their jobs. It's a push button, off it goes. Not my problem now.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest rant because I am really, really peeved off at that. But that's just sort of the thing to me. A lot of people won't have that problem. If you're not coming here to record rides, you're coming here just to have a great time. That probably won't annoy you. What will probably annoy you is the merchandise.
It's very sort of theme parky, as in it's got the standard sort of squishmallows and junk, essentially.
There's a lot of tat.
It has got some ride merch. The Water Ride Bandit, I think it was called.
Red Bandit Adventure.
That has got quite a bit of merch for itself, but for everything else, there really isn't much. There was a pin badge, there was a few magnets. You can buy stuffed toys for the park mascots, and they've got some unique things in. They've got puzzles with the mascots on the rides, and mugs, and a few other little things with the mascots on. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Now, that's not to say they haven't got merch, because you can essentially make your own merch. So they've got a full, essentially, printing press.
Yeah, there's a printing press, there's a crochet machine. And then they've also got, I'll just get it off, much like me Efteling one, so there's me Efteling bands. You can also get Slagharen ones printed.
Yeah,
Slagharen.
You can also do nameplates as well. So if you're into customising your own with their designs, that's fine. Then you're covered. If you want an actual sort of ride T-shirt, you're very, very limited.
You can't get anything like that. I mean, Gold Rush did look like it had some merchandise, but the shop was shut, which I can kind of understand. They've only just got the ride open, so they probably didn't have the staff for the shop, which is fair enough. But that leads us into the Ugly.
The Ugly.
And this one is quite a big one, and it might push a lot of people away. It certainly is going to stop us from coming back, probably for a very long time. And that's that the park was advertised from 10 till 6. All the rides were closing around 5:30, and all the shops closed as well.
We finished on Gold Rush at 10 to 6, and we were like, right, we can go back to the photo shop now, get our photos before 6 o'clock, all good. Got there literally 20 seconds after we got off Gold Rush, and the shutters were down, everything was down. I put my head under and I said, can we get photos? And they were like, no, we're closed now. And I think if you're going to advertise that you are open till 6 o'clock, all your shops need to be open till that time as well. It's absolutely shocking customer service on that front to not have your shops open, because if people are going to spend money, they're going to do it on the way out the park.
Yeah, exactly is what we were going to do. We don't want to cart around the merch all day, so if we're going to buy stuff, we buy stuff at the end of the day. Alton Towers, Merlin. I say Merlin because, to be fair, Hyder Park was like this, but Alton Towers Thorpe Park, you can get things in the shop on the way out, and the shops they will serve anybody. Up to a point sort of thing.
And like we said, I understand some of the eateries closing down before then. I totally get that with the eateries. Not everyone's going to want chips on the way out the park. However, when you've got your arcade open, when you've got your bar open, but you haven't got your photo and your merch shop open, I mean, say the park today has lost best part of probably €100 out the two of us, because we can't buy it because it's not open. And it's really, really off-putting, and it's, to be fair, it's now put a downer on an average okay day.
It's left, it's left a sour taste in the mouth. But before we rant too much, it's not really a rant. The park is probably still worth visiting, at least once. But I would honestly say it's probably ranking up there as the worst park visit that I've done, just because of the way that the park is operated. Now, I believe it's run by the same people that run Bobbejaanland Land and Movie Park, which is very interesting because Bobbejaanland Land and Movie Park are run completely differently to how Slagharen is. I much preferred Bobbejaanland Land to this, and it leads into nicely that take Gold Rush away from Slagharen and put it somewhere that is gonna fit in a little bit better. Drayton Manor. What else were we saying? Bobajanland could take it. Plopsaland would take it.
Even work at Chesington.
Yeah, it would even work something like at Chesington. Rattlesnake, Roof Rattlesnake, put that there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just a small thing. It feels like that ride is wasted on the park because everything else is sort of
family orientated, family friendly, a bit slower, and sort of the Gold Rush is a bit insane, crazy in the head. Yes, it fits with the theming,
but it sticks out with the thrill factor. So it just feels like it's wasted there, and that's obviously my opinion. So I presume that this video is going to rattle a few bird cages, so I do apologise if it does. But that's just what we've experienced.
Yeah.
The merchandise not being so good, ride operators not really caring so much, even the people in the shops not really giving a crap.
Yeah, and even as we were coming out, guest services were closed. So if you had any issues, you've got no members of staff to contact on your way out because there's no staff around, which it kind of boggles the mind.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if they're having trouble getting staff, which that's a fair enough thing, but even then, take your resources from other places and put them into places that matter. Guest services in the shop surely should be two of the things that are open until the very last minute, especially because it's a resort. You can stay on site.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not going to leave this on a negative note. It's worth visiting, like I say, for all the Schwarzkopf and Huss wonderfulness that there is there,
and the theming.
Yeah, Red Bandit Adventure was certainly a lot better than I was expecting it to be. That's probably the highlight, which is kind of bonkers between that and the chairlift being the two highlights of the park. And the other thing to note as well, don't bother with the digital pass. The digital pass for the photos is 25 quid. There's only 5 rides that have got photos on them, so if you go on each one once, it costs you 25 euros. Anyway, so if you're going to ride them multiple times, fair enough. On the mine train, don't ride in the front or second carriages because the camera is so close to the track that the canopy from the train covers first and second rows. It's bonkers that it's like that, but it's such a shame that's because that's the kind of point where the day started to dive a little bit when we realised that the photo was a bit pants. But yeah, by all means, come and check it out for yourself. There's plenty of good stuff, and the good does outweigh the bad. But there's quite a lot of
potential negative as well.
Potential negative for us compared with some of the other parks that we've been to. That rank, like I say, this ranks this as one of the lower parks and ones that I can't recommend here when you drive past Efteling.
Yeah, and Toverland.
And Wallaby Holland. We've not done Wallaby Holland yet, but I'm already expecting that to be better. Which leads in nicely. That's the next video.
It is,
so,
yes.
With that, we will leave you with it. Apologies that this end section's been a bit miserable and horrible, but it's just what we've experienced today. So, by all means, come and see for yourselves. But that's us signing out from Slagharen. So.
It is.
Bye.